Most men treat dating apps like a lottery. They swipe, they wait, and then they wonder why nothing happens. Why is it never for them? Why do the girls only match with the other guys? The problem is not the apps. The problem is that their profile, aka their marketing, makes them look like a bad product on a shelf full of great products. And then somehow they expect women to still buy that bad product. Okay, what do I mean by that? Women on apps aren't just looking at your profile in isolation and wondering about whether they like you. Instead, it's all a game of contrasts. Women choose between you and the literally hundreds of other options out there. Now, the good thing is that most men's profiles are absolutely forgettable, so the bar to actually stand out and be part of the top profiles is pretty low, which fortunately means that a very small portion of effort can go a very long way. So let's think of you as the product, and women are out there in the market to find a suitable product. Most men are out there selling themselves, but the reality is that you don't need to be the greatest salesman if you have a product that's selling itself. And that's exactly what a well-built profile does. And on top of that, texting and chatting becomes so easy when she already wants to meet you before you've even sent her anything. In fact, she'll actually make efforts, she'll forgive mistakes, and potentially even make the move towards a meetup if she wants you based on your profile. So what we need to do is position you the right way. So what does your profile actually need to communicate? Well, us men, we look at profiles of women, and the first and probably most important thing we look at is, do we find her physically attractive? Because of that, there's this misconception that women do the same. They look at the profile and think about whether they find the guy hot. Now, it's true that they do that, but whether or not they find you hot is not based only on whether they find you physically appealing. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to try and assess what kind of man you are and whether you are matching what they're looking for based on these 4 or 5 pictures that you have on your profile. In fact, there's 5 things they assess your profile on, and if you create your profile the right way, they will be able to kind of check the box on all of these 5 things and will be very happy and very excited to meet up with you, because most guys don't even tick 2 or 3 of these boxes. First thing she's going to look at is your status. And with status, there is a big misconception that women will only judge you based on whether you're financially or career-wise a very successful person. But what they're actually going to judge you based on is how you carry yourself. So do you carry yourself like a successful man would carry himself? Look at Harvey Specter in Suits. That is the epitome of a successful man. And we at no point in that show know how financially successful he is. On top of that, he's a lawyer, so he's a service provider. So he's not at the top of the food chain politically or financially, but he carries himself with confidence and charisma. He moves a little bit while the world around him is kind of reacting to him. And that's what true status is. So essentially, they look at what it would feel like to be by your side. And that leads me to the second point that they're going to look at, and that is your lifestyle. What does your life look like? If she becomes a part of that, what will her day-to-day life be? And I'll give a great example here, in my opinion, many men are super worried that all women care about is look, status, and money, especially if you look at the Dubai bubble. There's a lot of guys that are like, women only care about look, status, and money. But then again, they position themselves a little bit to attract these kinds of women. So certain men and certain women look for different things. And if you want to attract the right kind of women, you need to present the right lifestyle, because ultimately people look for somebody that lives a similar lifestyle to what they want to live. So if you're portraying a lifestyle that's all about luxury and supercars and cigars, you're not going to attract a girl that cares about health, fitness, and yoga and reading books at a nice quiet beach, right? It's simply a mismatch in lifestyle. So that's the second thing she's going to look at. What is the lifestyle you portray? And in fact, what's quite funny to me is that many men portray a lifestyle that is very different from what their actual lifestyle is, just because they think that that's what women want to see. And usually that is what a certain subset of women want to see, but not the subset of women that they're actually into. The third thing she's going to assess you on is your vibe. And that is something that is very difficult to portray through your pictures. But essentially she's going to look at whether it looks like you are moving through life with ease, effortlessness, and whether it looks like you're kind of approaching things from a playful perspective. Because if you're type of guy that's kind of bitter, angry, that's not going to be very fun. And this vibe is going to be judged on the basis of how your pictures are composed what vibe these pictures give off. And it's very difficult to put this in 2 or 3 sentences. So instead I'm going to link. I never know where this thing is, but whatever. There's going to be a pop-up here taking you to a different video I recorded on how to create an attractive Instagram profile. Go watch that video. I talk about how to create the vibe of effortlessness on there, and you can use that exactly for your dating apps. It's exactly the same principle. Use that concept of curated effortlessness, and that will create the perfect vibe for every girl to crush on your profile. And I know it sounds exaggerated, but because pretty much no other guy is doing that, your profile will stand out massively. The fourth thing she's going to assess you on is aesthetics. And aesthetics is kind of like a code of communication, because different subsets of society follow certain types of aesthetics. I'm just going to use a very obvious example with gothics. You know, I don't know how we call these nowadays. These people that dress in all black and they wear black eyelashes and black makeup. These people, they have a certain dark aesthetic that's part of their group. And they might be interested in 2 or 3 other types of group that have a different aesthetic, but overall it's going to be very obvious whether there's a match between these groups just based on the aesthetics you use. Similarly, people that are hardcore into the Dubai lifestyle, to go back on that, into this luxury and flaunting wealth lifestyle, they have a certain aesthetic. They like to show infinity pools, for an example. They like to show supercars, cigars, these kind of things. So that's an aesthetic, a type of composition of colors and of items that are recurring in these pictures. And understanding the aesthetic of the girls you go for and using that in your own pictures, it's kind of a code, because it shows that you get it. You're in the know. You're part of that same subset of society or that same community. And within that community, that's all that matters, because let's just use again the example of the girls in Dubai. If they're into luxury and all of their friends are into that luxurious lifestyle, yes, she might sometimes enjoy just hanging out with somebody who's hanging out at home and smoking weed in his little hometown. And she might be really into that when she's back at home with her parents, but probably her friends are not going to be into that. It's not what she does most of her time. So will she consider seriously dating somebody whose main lifestyle is that? Probably not. So instead of just focusing on the lifestyle, also taking into account the aesthetic that you put forward can be a great add-on. And I'll just stay on the example of smoking weed. If you are really into this luxurious lifestyle and you like smoking weed, don't use any pictures where you're with your boys and smoking a bong. You would want to use a picture where you're in a premium establishment and smoking a joint there. Just think of the aesthetics. And the last thing you're going to be judged on is the bio and the prompts. So the text that you're putting on your profile after picking the pictures. Now, the problem here is that you're not just being judged on everything that you've done right, you're also being judged heavily on small, minor mistakes that you make. If a girl looks at your profile and she likes what she sees from the pictures, but there's a discrepancy between the pictures and the bio, or an incongruence, that incongruence can completely ruin it for her and she can get completely turned off and swipe left, even though she liked the profile. So when in doubt, when you're writing a bio or when you're selecting prompts, just pick something that's on the safe side, or don't pick any bio at all. Because if you're trying to be funny and it comes across as tryhard, even the best profile will all of a sudden, by this minor mistake, be turned into a tryhard profile. It's so bad, unfortunately, because what it looks like is a random selection of pictures that you put no effort in. That's what it looks like, and that might look great. But then there's this one sentence that seems like you put in a ton of effort making a joke, and it's an immediate turnoff. Now, just a quick note here, if you want me to review your dating app profile, my Instagram is linked down below. Shoot me a DM with the word review and send me a screenshot of your profile and I'll take a look at it. If you want, I can make a video. If you want me to keep it private, I'll just give you private feedback. But that's something that I always offer. I love to do that, and it's super easy to fix most of the profiles. And I've linked this video earlier where I talk about how to create an amazing Instagram profile. I'm going to link it here once again. Once you've created a good dating app profile, the next step should always be to optimize your Instagram, because what you'll notice on dating apps is that it's so much easier to get girls over on your Instagram rather than getting them to your phone. And getting girls into your Instagram is almost like bringing them into a funnel where you can nurture the relationship, because you can post stories, you can send memes, and it's very easy to stay in touch and slowly build and nurture that relationship as you should. So having an attractive Instagram profile is the next step that you should focus on. So just to summarize this here, if you create an amazing Instagram profile, your profile will do all of the heavy lifting for you. You don't need to sell yourself anymore. You don't need to put in that much work with texting. You don't need to constantly worry about whether you said the right thing, because she will forgive way more mistakes if she already likes you just from looking at your profile. So investing that time beforehand is going to get you, literally, I don't want to exaggerate, but it's probably going to get you 80% of your results. And at that point, the great thing is that the conversation is less of you trying to sell her or you pitching her or whatever, and it's more of just two people that match, that already like each other, and it's more about just figuring out when you're going to meet each other. And unfortunately, to bring back the analogy from the beginning of the video, most men are never going to experience that version of the dating apps that is out there and that's accessible to those that put in the work to place their profile in the top 10%. Most men will never experience that because their marketing will always make them seem like a bad product. Amongst great products, it will always keep them in the bottom half or at least somewhere in the middle, so they will never get the matches they want and will never experience that reality that dating apps have to offer for men that have a great profile. That said, if you want to work with me, there's a link to my calendar down below. Book an appointment with me. Let's talk. Let's see where you're at. Let's see what you want to achieve, and let's see whether and how I can help you get there. If you have any questions on the video, leave them in the comment box down below and I'll get back to you. And besides that, see you in one of my next videos.